It appears that you have finally sent in, putting down in writing exactly what you want to do with the Medicaid expansion. Why is it, A, is that correct? And B, why has it taken so long to do that?
Well, we've been in the middle of discussions with them all along, and so we thought it was important at this point in time, because things feel like they've stalled out a little bit in the discussions, to be real clear about where we are and what the things are, what would need to happen for us to move forward.
So what do you expect the outcome of this letter will be that you're...
Well, I hope the outcome is for HHS to say, okay, let us sit down and have serious conversations with you about how we do move forward.
Well, what have you been doing up until now?
We've been doing that, to be honest, like I said, the last couple months, obviously they've had a lot on their plate, so we haven't had as many discussions. But we've been having those conversations, but I think our point is let's put in paper so we can be real clear where we think we stand, what the unsolved issues are, and what will have to happen for us to move forward.
Is this a final offer, or is this what?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I'd call it a final offer. This is just about us being really clear about where we are. And the Secretary was, like I said, their plate's been full recently. I guess I'll just say that. But they continue to say, well, we would love to do something with you, and we continue to say, here's what it would need to look like. So we thought it was important now as the year wraps up to put on paper exactly what that would look like.
So well, why not start out at the beginning?
I mean, excuse me.
Well, you mentioned cost share. I mean, there's people who say that's, as Medicaid is right now, that's illegal.
Well, actually, we think there's a lot more flexibility that they have under the law than what they've shown, and so that's what we're trying to figure out.
And the governor said he was going to send a letter a few weeks ago. So
Governor, not having seen the letter,
sure.
Is there anything in it that you're asking for that is either might be viewed as a concession or different from what you've said before?
I think we put in there's two or three things that we've been hung up on within discussions with them around, like the definition of medically fragile, around what services they'd have to have that wouldn't be part of the exchange. So there's very specific things. We also go into the thing in terms of payment reform, which we think is an important piece of that. And then the other thing that we said, things like what I talked about today with an HRA or HSA type approach, we think could again have the user be incentivized toward better outcomes.
But again, I'm not clear on this is the first time something has been written down and sent, is it not? I mean, because Sebelius, Secretary Sebelius a month ago said, we haven't gotten anything.
Right, and my point then, and still now, is saying we're not going to go send them something that we know they won't approve or that I can't get past. And so I thought it was really important at this point to say, here's where we are. Here's what we need to do to move forward. Here's the things that we still haven't solved in the discussions between you and us, so that they're really clear where we are.
Governor, in some other states, some of your fellow conservative Republican governors have expanded Medicaid.
Some have, and some have tried, and it's been turned around in the legislature, and some have, and a lot have not. So you have a pretty good mixture there.
And so, I mean, your basic concern is that you can't pass it if you do it.
No, I mean, my basic concern is, like I said, you all just heard me talk in the budget this year. Medicaid's going to eat up almost every bit of the new money we have. You might say, well, they're paying for 100%. Well, they're not going to pay for 100% forever. And none of us want to get back to where we're expanding and then cutting like the state had to do several years ago. And then there's also a legitimate question. Can the United States government really afford to pay 90% of the Medicaid cost for this population forever? I think that's a big question mark. So because of that, I think we're trying to make certain that if we go into something that truly is beneficial for the state and its population long term.
When you go back to Medicaid costs, my understanding of TennCare costs, talking to people there, it's 3% a year. That's not bad.
In terms of the increase?
Yes.
Well, it's not. But remember this: if it's 10 billion, if it's 10 billion, that's 300, which is about what we spend on Medicaid roughly. It's not quite that much. I think it's 8 billion. But 3% a year is what's that? 250 million. Okay, that's when you just have
you said 170 increase.
Right. So it's actually a little less that because we keep because it's a little less than that. But again, I'm talking in round numbers. So if you only have $250 million in new dollars, you just took it off. So that's the issue we're dealing with. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to lay out the budget here in January, and you're all going to be going, why didn't you fund this? Why didn't you fund that? Well, the answer is Medicaid takes up all of our new dollars. And that's just the hard fact. And so I think we're being wise in saying we're not going to go expand to this without thinking through the long-term ramifications. And you might say, well, they're going to pay for most of it while you're governor. They are. But somebody else is going to come along down the road, and I see the position that you're going to be in eventually as the state takes on more costs.
Was this a letter something you cleared with Speaker Ramsey? That's something that could pass if it wasn't approved by the feds?
I haven't sent it to any. We told them today we were sending a letter, but we haven't run it by anybody.
So there's no guarantees that even if the feds agree to what you say that.
No, I should be clear. The letter is more of a conceptual statement about where it's not a 10-point program of how we would propose expansion.